You know that scene in the Matrix movie where Tank's about to start Neo's education? That's what I feel like. It's a very exciting time. If you're ready, gotta get to it. Tantrums, the biggest pain point for parents of young children, and we're going to solve it in 3 easy steps in days. So why should we know? For the first time ever, MindEDU has recruited the world's most legendary researchers in early childhood development, all in one place to finally trustably answer what to do, and delivers these gifts of science most often by the researchers themselves in short video cliff notes. More, because it still takes a village to raise a child, we're recreating the village by creating virtual and real neighborhood playgroups, coaches, and preschools. Join us. For Tantrums, whose science? Diana Baumrind, Berkeley, 60 years, identified the authoritative parenting style. Donald Hebb, Ph.D., Harvard, 60 years as the father of neural networks. John and Julie Gottman, Ph.D.s, 40 years the most famous researchers on the planet in emotional relationship intelligence. Adele Diamond, Harvard, 35 years ago, opened the field of developmental cognitive neuroscience. Alan Kasdan, Ph.D., founder and director of the Yale Parenting Center, former president of the American Psychological Association, and Dr. Dan Siegel, Harvard. For 35 years, he studied how relationships in the brain interact to shape who we are. And remember, we're going to fix this in days. How do I know? Because I'm a second-time around daddy, and I've experienced it twice with my twin, now 5-year-old daughters. We're going to do this by coming at it from the 2 directions of what researcher Dr. Diana Baumrind coined as the dimensions of authoritative parenting. So responsiveness and demandingness, or emotions and behavior, and then employing the entire rest of the research team to do that. First, we need to explain something that I suspect is going to give you one of those aha moments. Science affirmatively tells us there's something called stress contagion. If you've ever been around somebody who's stressed, you get it. You get stressed. A critical piece of dealing with your child's tantrums is dealing with our stress, our response in the moment. Our child's screaming, and not only are we uncertain about what to do, but we feel like we're in pain. Here's what we know from science. We are in pain. We are biologically wired to be in pain. 100,000 years ago, a bear cub stole your toddler's lunch, and your toddler is screaming a fit. Now mama bear is looking at your toddler's lunch. If we didn't evolve to be instantly painfully triggered to respond, his DNA wouldn't end up as part of the gene pool. That biological wiring is still with us today. So just check the stress contagion, because get that it goes both ways. Your child triggers you, and if you don't check your stress, you're further going to trigger your child. So like the airlines say, when someone is dependent on you, put your mask on first. We need to calm ourselves first. Think of it as a shield to avoid being further triggered, and in turn, further triggering your child. A deep breath works, but we know from research there's a more effective way to downregulate than just take a deep breath. Name it to Tame it was succinctly coined by Dr. Dan Siegel, and it's much more effective to downregulate if you understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So now that we know why we're so triggered by our child's tantrums, we can connect with that why and name it to tame it. So when the tantrum happens, bring understanding of your brain and his, and Dan Siegel's phrase, do as the airlines say, put your mask on first. He's in pain, I'm triggered, name it to tame it, then take a breath. Neural networks. This is why it magically works in days. We turned to one of our legends, Dr. Donald Hebb, to get a basic understanding of how connections or neural networks in the brain are made by his famous phrase, neurons that fire together wire together. The idea is as simple as this. Repeat a behavior or thought often, and a strong neural network gets built in the brain so it becomes the default. Why is this so important to know with tantrums? Understanding what's going on with him will give you the gift of compassion, a critical piece to the solution. The place in our brains where emotions originate is the place where the fight or flight response resides. It's the amygdalas, as there's 2. It's an ancient 200 million year old part of the brain. But the part of the brain that makes us human, evolutionary wise, the newest part of the brain, and the one that can control those emotional responses, the prefrontal cortex, isn't connected at a young age. The neural connections in our prefrontal cortex, the part that controls the majority of what we consider human behaviors, is not fully developed until we're in our mid-20s. That's why it seems like Parents have to parent kids until they're 20. That's why. So for your young child, unlike you, they have little to no ability to control what's going on. And they could be experiencing any combination of fight or flight. Now get this. Research from Dr. Diamond's lab has shown that even mild stress takes this human part, the prefrontal cortex, offline. That's why it's difficult for us to control our emotions when we're stressed. That's why Name It to Tame It works. It brings your PFC back online. Science is so awesome. This is important to get. For the wiring for your children to control their tantrums doesn't exist yet. That's why they can't name it to tame it, because they don't have a neural connection for it yet. This is why disciplining a child for a tantrum is wrong. Instead, use another Dan Siegel's great maxims: connect before you redirect. We'll talk about redirecting when we talk about managing tantrums. So the only logical response you can bring when he's lost it is compassion for the hell that's going on in his little brain, feeling huge emotions he doesn't understand and being out of control. Still rings in my ears hearing my daughter say, I can't stop crying. So what are we going to do? We're going to build those neural connections for emotions and behavior. And we start with emotions. Step 1, with your child calm, create a time in place. This is a place you go to calm down, not a place for time out. This is very consciously designed with them as a place to calm down. To do this, find a place like a corner in the room, the living room, where they fill it with things that they feel would help calm them, blanket, stuffed animal, book, and then practice with them when they're not upset. While with them in their time in place, connect with them the practice of feeling loved and comforted with hugs from you. Hugs release the hormone oxytocin, called the love hormone, because of its calming, connected effect on us. Then when they're mildly upset, we're going to start creating those neural networks in the mind. Step 2, emotion coaching. Legends? Greek gods might be better when it comes to emotional intelligence. John and Julie Gottman have a wonderful emotion coaching program to teach children emotional intelligence. It's summed up in this phrase: all feelings are acceptable, all behaviors are not. And we're going to use the emotion coaching program to teach and tame emotions. There's 5 steps to it. Be aware of your child's emotions. Recognize emotions as an opportunity for connection or teaching. By connecting with your child, you're able to calm their amygdalas, bring their prefrontal cortex online, and open the door to teach and create those neural networks. 3, help your child verbally label emotions. This is where we begin to use the magic from Donald Hebb's research to begin to create those neural connections, giving them the Name It to Tame It tool. 4, communicate compassion and understanding, even when there's misbehavior. 5, set limits and problem solve together. The more you do this, the stronger those neural connections become in the brain, and they get to use the Name It to Tame It to downregulate and calm down. We'll describe the steps next in action. The main event, tantrum. Bring 2 shields and a fire hose. Shield, put your mask on first. Name it to tame it. He's in pain. I'm triggered. Take a breath. Then if needed, a physical shield. Don't put yourself in harm's way. This is a good boundary setting exercise for him too. It teaches him that you're not going to get hurt. I'll be over here. Let me know when you can stop kicking and hitting. Your fire hose. Compassion. Use the emotion coaching method. Remember, all feelings are acceptable, all behaviors are not. Right now, whatever he's feeling is acceptable. I hate you. It's acceptable. Obviously, the opportunity to name it to tame it is situation relevant. If she's in a thermonuclear flameout, you're not going to have this discussion. But if you can, we'll quickly check the first box of the emotion coaching. Be aware of your child's emotions. They're having a tantrum. Check. 2, recognize emotions as an opportunity for connection or teaching. Daddy needs a hug. This is the offer she connects to doses of oxytocin. Very effective firefighter if you can use it. If you get the hug and can, move to your time in place. Help your child verbally label emotions. The Name It to Tame It tool. Communicate compassion and understanding even when there's misbehavior. This is what it sounds like. Honey, it looks like you're feeling frustrated trying to get your shoes on. I am so sorry you feel that way. I feel frustrated and feel like throwing my shoes too when I struggle to get them on. Notice I didn't fault her for throwing her shoes. This is a moment to teach emotions, not correction. Notice also I didn't use frustrated that you can't get your shoes on. Instead, I used frustrated trying to get your shoes on. Elsewhere in our program, we'll talk about the importance of encouraging determination and grit. If everything is rejected because the fire is raging out of control, let your child know you're available and leave the fire to let it burn out. Literally leave. Dr. Alan Kazan's work specifically shows their behaviors, temper tantrums being ones that are unwittingly reinforced by parents' attention, even negative attention. And as you will see in a moment, as we deal with behavior, this leaving that you're doing is only going to last for at most a few weeks. So there's no great danger of damaging the relationship between you and your child. But there's very much the risk of reinforcing tantrums by attention, even if it's negative attention. Yes, I understand the contradiction I just stated relative to emotion coaching, where you're giving your child attention during a tantrum. It's an option to go straight to the next step, where we deal with tantrum behavior in days, at most a few short weeks. Dr. Julie Gottman refers to moments when your child is emotional as magic moments, when you can connect with your child and teach emotional literacy. And here we're striking a balance when we can do both labeling emotions and separately changing behavior with step 3. So step 3, changing behavior. Now we build the neural networks for behavior. This is where we get to use Donald Hebb's and Alan Kazan's research. To create the neural network to get the behavior we want, something other than tantrums, we're going to employ a brilliant approach that has been developed over 30 years at the Yale Parenting Center by Dr. Kazan's team. One of the tools of the ABC method called playful simulations. The idea is amazingly simple yet profoundly effective. By offering your child the opportunity to play a game where your child pretends to have a good tantrum, you can appreciate when you're both being playful, you're not stressed, and from Dr. Diamond's research, we know that when we're not stressed, the prefrontal cortex is online, so we can begin to form those connections. Magic! And through reinforced practice, a strong neural network is created between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdalas as she gains the control to control her tantrum in days, at most a few short weeks. The key, as you can appreciate from Donald Hebb's axiom, is repeated practice over a number of days to build that neural network to become her default response. So here's the very abbreviated Kazan ABC method using playful simulations. ABC. A is for antecedents. Everything that happens before a behavior to increase the likelihood of the behavior. The antecedent here is it's a game. B is for behavior. You're going to simulate the situation where your child normally has a tantrum. But in the tantrum game, it has to be a good tantrum. So what's a good tantrum? Ready for a paradigm shift? One of the secrets to the ABC method, instead of focusing on the behavior you don't want, think of the behavior you do want to replace it. The positive opposite, in Kazan's words. But changing behavior, just like when your child was progressing from crawling to walking, you shape the behavior in steps. Called, check this out, shaping. Remember how he started by climbing up on the couch to stand, and then hand over hand, and then holding your hands, and then finally taking his first few tentative steps? And all along the way, you enthusiastically praised each new level of progress? You were shaping. And tantrums or any other behavior where you use shaping needs the same shaping approach. You praise the progress, small steps. Crazy as it sounds to enthusiastically praise for a mild tantrum, that's what we're going to do. And think of it as praising the progress. So ABC, C is for consequences. If they have a good tantrum, no screaming, no kicking, whatever it is you define as a good tantrum, she gets praise and attention. What? No charts? Dr. Kazan's lab has shown the most effective reward is enthusiastic praise. In fact, it's so effective that a point chart alone without enthusiastic praise will fail. We can add a point chart if praise needs a boost. So what is enthusiastic praise? Another of the secrets of the ABC method. Unlike the praise that most parents use, this has some very specific characteristics. 1, it's immediately after the behavior. 2, it's enthusiastic. Paraphrasing Kazan, if weak praise, weak results, enthusiastic praise, you get the enthusiastic results. 3, very important, you're specific in praising what they did. Great job, doesn't do it. Great job, I asked you to climb into bed, and you did. 4, it's reinforced with a physical touch. Pat on the head, high five, a hug. 5, watch for the positive opposite. So why is this specifically listed? We evolved looking for dangers lurking through the savannah. Our ancestors were the ones looking for negative behavior. That's how they didn't end up at lunch. That is still with us today. It's called the brain's negativity bias. You're more likely to spot the negative than the positive opposite. Being aware of the brain's negativity bias will help you spot when your child is behaving. Now about that point chart. We're going to use one here because it helps describe the game, and it's also an antecedent to help get them to be thinking that this is just a game. It's a simple chart, 3 columns, days of the week, practices, and behavior. We have them for download at MindEDU/downloads. She gets 2 points for good practice, 1 point for good behavior. The benefit to the chart, if it's posted in a conspicuous place like the refrigerator, is it's an antecedent for both of you to remember the program is on, for her to behave and you to spot the behavior. So putting it all together, here's the script. Notice that the game description is an antecedent. Ready? We're going to play the tantrum game. And here's how it works. I'm going to tell you can't watch TV. You really can, but we're just pretending. And if you do a good tantrum, that is no screaming, you hold up the stickers, you can get these 2 stars on your chart. And if you get 2 stars, you can help pick out what we have for dinner tonight. Ready? Remember, we're just playing a game. Okay, you can't watch TV. You can appreciate with all these antecedents, she's going to have a good tantrum and finish with a smile. You then praise enthusiastically. That was amazing! I told you couldn't watch TV and you had a good tantrum. Now's the time to put Donald Hebb's axiom to work and get those neurons to fire again. You do this by presenting her with an antecedent in the form of a challenge that Dr. Kaz's lab has found almost universally works. That was so amazing. But I'll bet you can't do that again. No 4-year-old could do that again. I don't even think a 5-year-old could do that again. Of course, she'll accept the challenge. And you get to repeat it with the same enthusiastic praise as a consequence, further developing that neural network. For several days, you repeat the practice twice per day. And just like you shaped your child to walk, use antecedents to increase the behavior. Like, I'll bet this time you can't have a tantrum with no yelling and just a grumpy face. But if you do that, you can get 2 stars. Then what inevitably happens as the shaping progresses is there's a tantrum, but it's less intense. And even though this is counterintuitive, you effusively praise the less intense tantrum. I can't believe it. We weren't even playing the tantrum game and you had a nice tantrum. Often, you're able to end the program in a matter of a week, at most 2. I've seen it happen frequently with behaviors here at home in days. Ready for the magic bonus? Robust research shows how even controlling for IQ, teaching your child to control their emotions, greatly increases your child's utilization of their IQ in school, in work, in relationships, in life, and grants them our greatest wishes to be happy, healthy, and have the courage and perseverance to successfully pursue their life goals. Want to know more? We have just skimmed the surface. There is so much more. Authoritative parenting, executive functions, theory of mind, social emotional learning, emotion coaching, and it's free. Babies don't come with instructions? Now they do. MindEDU.